the only thing they talk about in these movies. And NOS.
Hello.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Macabre Podcast
Universe.
And this is the podcast that exists to prove people wrong when they say...
Sequels are never better than the originals.
And it may even be the podcast that exists to prove people wrong when they say that the first 4 movies are better than the 5th movie.
Uh-huh. I had to think about it, but yes.
And we are covering the Fast and Furious saga, and we're on the 5th entry. And here we are, and we're joined by someone...
have arrived. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Keep going.
Oh.
No, I'll save it. Keep
Okay.
going.
We are joined by someone who we've had on one of my favorite episodes we did, on a movie that was probably one of my favorite movies that we've covered because it was such an insanely cool movie. And that is Seth Decker on our Insidious 2 episode. When he was here last. And here we go again. Welcome back to the show. We're excited you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, every time you reach out and say you'll have me, I'm a little surprised, but always happy to hear it. So here we are.
No, it's fun for us.
Yeah.
So, what were you going to say, Jordan?
Oh, I just said we have finally arrived to a good movie in this series.
Yeah, I think this is the first one that I, without an asterisk, can say I liked this movie.
Me too.
And it was a lot of fun. So because this has been our most requested series, I'm sure a lot of you listeners really love this series, and maybe you've been really mad at us for a month. But we did like this movie.
Yes, finally. And we were told that the 5th one really gets cooking.
Yes.
But why does it take 4 movies to get cooking?
I'm so excited to get into that.
Yeah, well, so Seth, could you set the table for your experience as a Fast fan and then potentially go into your Fast 5, the first time you saw it, all of that jazz?
Absolutely. So the Fast series was something that I had been into since the first one. Like the first one came out at a very formative time in my life. As I think I was like 2001. Is that when the first one came out? So I would have been like 10 or 11, and as a prepubescent boy learning about what it's going to take to become a man, and this car movie comes out, and I remember really digging it as a kid, and then it became this like guilty pleasure thing because everybody used to make fun of me for liking it, and as the series continued and kind of spun its tires in mediocrity for a little bit there, but I liked them as they kept going. I enjoyed each one. And it was our brave Patrick Willems of YouTube fame. He talked about them one time on, I think it was on a podcast or maybe it was one of his videos, and he talked about them very lovingly in a way that made me like feel secure about having loved them for so long.
Yeah.
Because I get they're trash, but they're fun trash, and and they're trash with all the money pumped into it. Yeah, and so I've loved them for a long time, but now I get to openly talk about loving them because recently they've started making like $1 billion every time they come out. So everybody's watching now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that is a very unique perspective you have. You got to hit that validation point, which is nice.
Yeah, finally. And I do appreciate them for like what they are. Like I don't tout this as like my favorite series, but it's also one that I get excited every time there's a new entry, even if it's going to be a total letdown like a Hobbs and Shaw. I'm still just happy that I'm still getting them.
See, and this is, I think, the scary aspect of covering this series has been for Jordan and I, is we've not dug the first 4. There are certainly elements that we like about them.
Yeah,
totally.
That this 5th movie finally brings all those things together.
Yeah, and then what I fear is I kind of, in my obsessiveness, have like looked ahead and then remember people saying certain things about different movies, and by my estimation, there's a high chance we're gonna love one more movie and maybe like the others. Yeah. And I'm like, there's 5 more of these that we have to watch.
Yeah.
But this was pretty thrilling, I have to say.
It was good. I didn't get bored or
I didn't get bored
get
either.
mad.
Which, of course, we'll get into a little bit more. But
I mean, we definitely have just in general missed out on getting in on these early, I think, at a
Sure.
younger
Yeah.
age. So now it's like a lot of people who have told us about them, I think a lot of people have grown up with them.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it
And
feels
we're
like
completely missing out.
if you jumped into Marvel like around the time everyone was talking about Endgame.
Yeah.
It'd be like these, if you watch those first few movies while everyone's saying like these are life-changing movies, you might be like, what is this that people are so obsessed with?
Right.
Right.
But if you were there the whole time, you love it,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's kind of get into who made this movie because it's pretty much the same crew as the last movie. We got
Yeah.
director Justin Lin, writer Chris Morgan, to which
Chris Morgan is the man.
So you said something very funny about Chris Morgan in this
Me?
movie. Yes.
I said a couple things because at one point in the movie, well, kind of early on in the movie, I asked, did Justin Lin direct this? And you said yes. And I said, that's wild. This looks like a completely different movie. And then later on, I said something. I made another comment about how just like how much better this movie looks and how much like the story is just a million times better. And you're like, same writer. And I said, did they take a class? Like, what happened? It's just so much like. It is above and beyond better than what we've had. It's insane.
It does truly feel like it's a new team on this one.
This movie looks good.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you share that opinion or are we on our own for that?
No. So this is the weird. This is why this movie becomes such an anomaly because.
Okay, here we go. I love it.
So all right, let me walk you through like my non-nostalgia film critic hat on how I feel about the movies leading up to this point. I think the first one's a classic. It's so innocent looking back now. They're stealing VHS players and it's just like, chest puffing in the street around cars. It's so cute. So I think that one's a classic. I think Too Fast, Too Furious is like the Adderall of movies. It's like it's either exactly what you need or it's garbage.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm tracking so far.
Tokyo Drift, it tends to be a room splitter now because I think there's been a big crowd that's kind of come to support it, including myself rewatching it recently. We did it on Film Rescue, and I had to do the rescue, and I fell in love with it watching it. And I was like, actually, I really dig this one now. It used to be the stinker, but now I kind of love it. And then Fast and Furious, or, 4.
Yeah.
That's where I almost bowed out of the series. That's where I was like,
Okay.
oh, this was a big misfire. It feels like they're trying to redo the first one, but also like bait a new series, and it's lopsided and it feels shot for TV. Like it's kind of ugly. I don't know. I don't dig it anymore. And then you get Fast 5, and it's like, this feels like an Ocean's movie. This is fun and snappy, and we're starting right off into a heist, and the energy is up the whole. What the fuck?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the course correction from here on. The rest of the movies feel like this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank goodness, because it really
Thank
finally found out. They finally figured out.
They
think,
found
like,
the brand.
what it is.
They found the brand.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's just such a. This movie was such a breath of fresh air, and it's like all the other movies. Some of them because they're not. Like 2, I don't know what that movie's about. But part of it is just like during the movies, I'm so bored I could not tell you what the movies were about. And then this one, it's like this movie's so simple. It's so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously complicated things in it.
Right.
There's a whole heist, but I'm keeping track of the whole thing. I'm not bored at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot more conversations when we were watching the other 4 where we kind of were like, wait, what are we doing in this scene? How come these characters are here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you thought about it, we were like, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this one, it feels like there's a little more intensity behind it and a drive and a purpose.
Yep.
But yeah, that's okay. So that's the opinion, and that's where we're leaning.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Because the other thing that I thought was funny, and you won't have heard this yet, Seth, but I wrote a like 30-second intro song that kind of has a Fast and Furious vibe that goes it'll be at the beginning and ending of these episodes.
Sure.
And in it, I make a couple of jokes, and one of them is I say family. It's like the only thing they talk about in these movies.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I did that before watching many of them, and those first 4 movies, I was kind of like, how come that's the only thing people always say these movies are about family, and I was kind of like, it's not really about family. It sort of is, but then this movie
is about family.
They talk about it so much that I feel beat over the head in a way that I was like, yes, this is what everyone has been promising me.
Definitely.
And then everyone's been saying they go gonzo, and I'm like, they kind of go gonzo.
Kind of.
Well, okay.
But
and that's why I think this is my favorite of all the movies so far. I tweeted out my like ranking of everything in preparation for the episode. You saw, so this one will remain my favorite one because it hits this like x-axis in the series where they figure out the formula, they know where they're headed. Every movie has tropes now, like, you know, the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson role, the Hobbs role. There's a celebrity to fill that in every subsequent movie, and then like the tropes get established, but they start to turn into superhero movies. In the next one is where it gets into that, like, I'm doubting if the logistics of the physics of this right now. You know what I mean?
Got it.
And that has nothing but skyrocketed since then. Without spoiling anything, F9 is just absolutely batshit banana bonkers. Just but if you're along for the ride, and so that's why I was so happy that I got to talk about this one with you guys, because it sits in that perfect x-axis of like it goes a little crazy by the end, but it's not so crazy that it's unbelievable.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, and I was pretty blown away. So today, while I was doing research for the movie, you know, the bank heist, the vault heist is awesome. I mean, who in their right mind is going to deny that that's a great action sequence?
Oh, yeah.
It's cool to watch.
There's a twist.
I mean, it's got it all. Mm-hmm. That is the kind of thing I want to see when I watch an action movie, for sure. But I'm going there, and I knew from hearing and seeing some other stuff that, like, a lot of it was practical. And I'm like, that's really cool, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that. And then I watched this 20-minute breakdown with the stunt coordinator, and he proceeds to explain how not only is most of it practical, but he points out the one shot of the safe that is not practical.
Oh, really?
And then not only that, he talks about the scenes where they did use a 9,000-pound safe.
Yeah.
Really?
And when he's explaining this, I'm like, okay, so this scene I thought was bonkers and unbelievable, but I was there for it. Turns out it's just possible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, they're
That's awesome.
launching a 9,000-pound safe around on these sets and stuff, and knocking cars over. I mean, that's cinema, baby.
Justin Lin, he's such a unique filmmaker, I think, in the way that this doesn't feel like Bad Boys. This doesn't feel like, Michael Bay over the top big action. It exists in this little like extreme sports vacuum of like the Triple X movies kind of exist here, and a lot of like Hong Kong cinema exists here, and that's a huge inspiration on his filmmaking in general, and you can see so much of that come out, especially in this one, when like I think the honesty in this one is what sets it apart from Fast and Furious, the previous film, because these two are like, simultaneous. This story happens over the course of those couple weeks. And I think this one just finally drops that facade and is like, they all know kung fu. Everybody can fight. They're all like really strong, and like nothing kills them. It just drops that mask and goes, okay, if you guys can buy on to the fact that these are unbreakable good drivers that are also spies now that do bank heists. Will you run with us with that? And if you say yes, you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, that is just, it's so wild to think about. And so I know that there's certain elements that you will want to keep, hidden from us when I ask this question.
Sure.
But where is this movie in the the time chronology of these movies? Folks, he took the biggest breath.
Well, okay, because I'm trying to redo the chronology in my head because I've been rewatching them lately just for fun. This movie takes place after the events of Too Fast, Too Furious, and before the final race of Tokyo Drift, and all of the subsequent movies will take place there until 8.
Mm-hmm.
so
8? Wow.
So it's
6 and 7 happen before the Tokyo Drift race.
6 and 7 happens simultaneously with the Tokyo Drift race, and it will make sense. For what they're worth, their canon is unbreakable. Like everything tracks at the end of the day, except for the fact that unfortunately Lil Romeo has aged a lot between Tokyo Drift and F9.
Yeah,
that hurts it a little bit. The whole like cell phone technology thing being 50 years in the future by the yeah, that hurts it. But other like character like decisions and plot wise, it doesn't actually break. It's ironclad.
Great.
I love this idea that Justin Lin is like, hey, I came in on Tokyo Drift, and now I'm the fast guy, and I'm gonna beat you over the head with like Tokyo Drift until you guys like this movie. And from what you're saying, it sounds like the tide is turning on Tokyo Drift. I think that's his mission. He's gonna make these movies until it's unanimous amongst fans that Tokyo Drift is great.
Right.
That's the whole reason for all
That's
of
what
this.
he's gonna do.
Okay. That's dedication.
Okay, so speaking of Tokyo Drift, we have the Fast and Furious 4 cinematographer is not on this one, but the one from Tokyo Drift, Stephen F. Winden, is back.
Correct.
And we have the music which could explain some of the way the movie looks that we were discussing a little bit earlier.
Oh, yeah.
It does. The music is again by Brian Tyler, and I thought he did pretty good on the music on this one.
I thought so.
I mean, I think so far of the scores he's done for this series, Tokyo Drift is definitely the best one.
Okay.
I was really feeling that score.
Tokyo Drift has a great score. F7, when you guys get to it, I think that one has all the best needle drops, though. That one's going to
Nice.
stand
nice.
out. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I just can't wait to knock out another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be exciting. So the movie comes out April 29th, 2011. It has a $125 million budget. In the U.S., it makes $210 million, and worldwide, it makes $630.
Wow.
So we have just leveled up, folks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This movie
Big
did
time.
very well in the theaters. And now they say, let's not stop this train. We're going.
Yep.
So then a couple of facts about this movie. Diesel was he was like hanging out with fans on Facebook or something like that, and someone suggested that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson should be in the next movie. And he said, that's a good idea.
Really?
That's how he got hired. So a fan of Fast and Furious who was in, some chat or message board or something like that on Facebook was like, this would be a good idea.
And apparently it kind of is.
Yeah, it's a good idea now, but I hear rumors it becomes a bad idea later. And yeah, so that speaking of the feud between those two men is not public until 2016. So we don't have to discuss that yet. From what I could gather, this is a good experience on this movie.
Okay.
So we'll be covering that in the next couple of weeks. If you don't know, folks, there's an interesting, fun little feud for people who like learning about movies.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the sets in this movie are real.
Nice.
I would say most of that Brazil stuff. I mean, they're building real sets and using real towns. It's crazy. You have, let's see. There was so then when we go to the bank scene, there's a driver in a steel cage who is driving around outside of the vault, and he kept like bumping into it, and it's making a spark shoot and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, that's great footage. They're using that in the movie. That's one of the ways they got shots. And then they have 6 different versions of the 8-foot high vault.
Wow.
So 2 of them are the real 9,000-pound vaults, no driver. And then one of them it's a truck, like a pickup truck. They cut out the bed, and then they build a safe around the front of it. Or actually, I think they built it all the way around, drive it around. But then the driver, it's causing so much heat that it's like 130 degrees in there.
Whoa.
So then they say, hey, let's put dry ice in there to keep him cool. But if you put dry ice, you're going to lose all your oxygen. You can't breathe in there.
Oh, geez.
So then they rig him up with like,
my God.
something so that he can drive and he's sucking on air from outside.
Oh, so that doesn't sound fun for him.
Yeah.
And then another one was like a semi truck that they did just the front section around it. And then, it's just the truck. Obviously, there's no trailer on it.
Yeah.
And I know that was only 4 of them that I described, but amongst all those, there's a couple more that are around. And it's just nuts watching that breakdown of the stunt coordinator. It kind of blew my mind because there was stuff that even just as a viewer, having seen a lot of action movies, you just go, oh yeah, that's CG. It just looks really good because they don't want to kill anyone. That's good. I don't want anyone to die on this movie.
Right.
But there's a shot toward the end when they're on the freeway, and he whips the cable around so that it cuts off the top of a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's 100% like CG, of course, because, how would a person drive and not die? No, that's a real shot.
Wow. How did they do it?
They whittle it down so that the cable will hit in a certain spot and it'll make the roof fly off. But then when he's describing it, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they have a rig where he has a way he can see out the front of the car, and he's low. No. They practiced it enough so that the guy would pull his head down fast enough.
At the right time?
Yeah.
Whoa. That's wild.
And that's how they did that.
Whoa.
Fast and furious and dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life of a stuntman.
Right.
I know. I'd hate it, but I'd hate to do it, but I love that someone does.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that person's okay.
But yeah, and that only CG vault shot, according to the stunt coordinator, unless he forgot something, is when Vin Diesel is on the overpass and he flips his car, or the bridge, flips his car a 180, and then it tumbles onto the other side, and then it hits like the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's CG.
Yeah.
Everything else is some sort of real safe situation.
Very cool. That's so cool.
And that's what I got for my notes.
Great. But not many people to cover because it's mostly the main crew, but we do get The Rock in this, of course. I only looked at what he's in like right leading up to this because his career is so vast. So he's in things like Faster, You Again, The Other Guys. And in this same year this movie came out, he was in a WrestleMania. One of the hundreds of millions of them that there have been. And then Joaquim de Almeida plays the head bad guy, Reyes.
Oh, yeah.
He is in Clear and Present Danger, Behind Enemy Lines, and Desperado.
And of course, the 3rd season of 24.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that which season is that?
He's Ramon Salazar.
Yeah, but like
It's the one with the virus.
How come that's the one I remember, but I can't remember anyone who's in it besides Chloe, who dies?
Chloe doesn't die.
No, Eddie dies because he sacrifices himself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I'm like, Chloe's basically the main character of that show.
No. It's her and Eddie are together, and I was like, I might have cried that Eddie sacrificed himself
Really?
as a kid. Yeah.
Wow. That's very sweet.
And then Elsa Pataki. Probably didn't pronounce that correctly. She plays Elena. She is also in Snakes on a Plane, Tidelands, 12 Strong, and Spy Games.
And you didn't like her in this movie.
No.
I thought she was good. What did you think of her?
I miss Letty a lot.
Well, yes.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. It's like, so, we watched the fourth movie. We had never seen it. Letty dies. And we're like, well, we know she doesn't die. She's somewhere.
So
I missed her too.
I'm not a huge fan of Vin Diesel, just in general, and specifically his acting. And I don't think he's had genuine like presence with a female lead except for Michelle Rodriguez. She's the only one that I think he's ever been like convincingly in love with on screen. So,
yeah.
I get that.
That's my big issue. It's just that, and that's why I miss Letty, because it's like she makes him look better by her being there.
Yeah, I think
that's a fair point for sure.
So this character Elena, I see she's in future movies, which I'm surprised by. But because in this movie, the only thing that she's here to do is at the right moment in the movie uncuffs everybody.
Right.
To me, that's like the only thing she's actually doing as a character to move the story forward. Because other than that, The Rock's like, I need a translator and I need it to be her. And she literally doesn't translate a single thing.
She doesn't translate at all.
And he's basically just like, stay here. And he goes and shoots people and stuff. And I know that she's not some like high up, like undercover or anything kind of cop. Like she's just a parole officer. But it's like, okay, well, she's either falling in love with someone or doing one important thing in this movie or dying.
Right. I mean, and it's funny because they could have just said, like, instead of saying she's a translator, they should have just said, oh, she's the special agent that we need. Because she doesn't use the translating.
But yeah. So she does the thing that she's supposed to do, and she gets Dom at the end.
Yeah.
They get together.
Oh man, I mean, not to jump to the mid-credit sequence, but I had no idea that Eva Mendes came back to this series, and I was shocked to see her.
I think that's the extent of her comeback.
Oh, okay.
If I might be misremembering. I haven't seen 6 in a minute, but I think that may be the extent of her comeback.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense to me.
It was just to tie in Too Fast, Too Furious and make it actual canon.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, should we dive into the plot now? We ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
We ready to hit the nos?
Yeah.
Okay. So the movie begins with what they may have hired trailer editors to get the movie going, because it has this pulsing intro of like showing footage from the previous movie.
Right.
Always sort of a bad decision, but from there it goes up.
Right.
Yeah.
From there it goes up because we go right to, and you said on the last episode,
I said the next movie's going to start seconds after the last one ended.
Good call.
And you were right. And I have a feeling the next one might.
That's what I said at the end of this movie. It's going to start right where the last one ended. But who knows?
But so we have the crew we know trying to get Dom free from the bus.
Going to prison.
And they're driving around. It looks cool. Paul Walker causes the bus to hit him and flip.
Several times.
And then we have the classic PG-13 thing where it goes to like news footage and they're like, miraculously, no one was killed. That's my favorite like trope of PG-13 movies.
We have to keep our criminals clean, guys.
Even though that's like, you murdered all of those people.
You're seeing the roof is like caving in as it's rolling over. But
I mean, I literally don't care. I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a point against the movie. So what is this? I say weirdo from the first one is in Brazil. Oh,
Vince is in this movie.
I didn't remember his name.
Vince got yoked up in the last 3 movies too. What the fuck? He was huge.
And he was actually very good in this movie.
Yeah, he was.
I thought he was good.
I didn't really like him in the first one, and I was like, they brought this guy back?
Well used.
But then I was like, oh, no, he's cool. He did a good
Oh
job.
yeah, I thought it was great.
Because basically, they're on the run, and so they go to Brazil, and...
Just Brian and Mia get there.
Yes.
They're not with Dom, and that's when they meet Vince.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they've been traveling and they've been running from the law, and they got nothing but the road ahead of them.
Right. And
Vince tells them about a job, that if they needed some money, it's a really simple job of taking some cars.
yeah, just a
Super
really simple job. No strings attached. It's going to go just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out Mia's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And you...
I'm just trying to predict things, okay? It doesn't always come true.
Because you said, oh, I think she might die in this movie. And I was like, she's pregnant. She can't die. This is a PG-13 movie. If they kill a pregnant woman.
Yeah, but sometimes I think that's like a person will die if like there's a big potential happy future.
Yeah.
They will cut it away from our main character. That's the only reason I said that.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
and I was wrong, okay?
Padme did die in Revenge of the Sith.
Thank you.
You're not wrong. So she's pregnant, and then we have the train sequence.
Uh-huh.
This was like, because, we always go into these movies, any movie we cover with, even if you hate it or whatever, let's see if we can figure it out this time. That's our viewpoint.
Yeah.
But after 4 movies I didn't really like, I was like, I just kind of don't even want to watch this movie, but let's do it. And then this train sequence happens, and I'm like, okay, please keep this energy going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this whole sequence is cool.
Yeah.
They're stealing cars out of the back of trains. They're using
Like a cable thing.
cable
a trailer thing.
that like sucks the car over to them, which I love that.
Yeah.
And then they drive off.
Yeah, and then it puts them down on the train and they just take off. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
A train robbery that is cars that are doing it is so silly, but that's what I've been promised that this series is, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we're just doing all that, and then we find out that
So Dom shows up in the middle of all of it.
Yeah.
And he tells Mia, like, change of plans. And she goes, like, another direction she's not supposed to go, and she leaves.
I love that there's literally no reason for them to split up at the beginning of the movie except for him to have a badass intro into the movie.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
He could have traveled straight down to Brazil with them, been ready for the job, been there for the whole family thing. But no, fuck that. I need a badass intro in the middle of the heist.
Something I thought of, yeah, I was actually confused, but not in a way that's like, I'm not getting into it. But when he was not with them earlier in the movie, and he shows up later, it's like, so did they just crash that bus full of prisoners and leave him there to figure it out? Like, why would he not be
They're
with
like,
him?
you got this, dude.
Yeah, like, take this car. Yeah.
Yeah, so he shows up. Then there's kind of like this double crossing thing where the guys that Vince had got turn on our FF boys and girls,
Uh-huh.
And so this causes, and when this was setting up and I'm seeing what's going to happen, in my mind, I'm like, please do this. Please do what I think you're going to do. Please, please, please. Where the trailer that they're using to suck up the cars is like it's incapacitated and it's not next to the opening anymore. And then Vin Diesel's in a car and he's going to have to now drive it off of the train onto the ground. And when I'm seeing that, I'm just like, come on. And then he does it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's CG magic and stuff like that, but I couldn't tell. They did a really good job. It didn't look like his stunt double or anything like that. It looked great.
Mm-hmm.
He flies off. I know there's some other details in that whole sequence.
Well,
but
Brian is hanging from the train and a bridge is coming. And then also during all of that, the bad guy kills all the DEA agents.
Yeah. Which will set up the conflict with Mr. Hobbs himself.
Yeah.
And then Paul then jumps onto the car in like an impossible stunt, but one that I'm like, yes, okay. And then the edge of this canyon is coming where there's water. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to, like flip a U-ey and they're going to have maybe a wheel hanging over the side. But I think they are now saying, even poetically, they are saying, no. This series no longer is a series that flips a U-ey and drives away.
Correct.
No. We are jumping into the water from like a 250 foot high thing that's not possible for a person to live through.
Yep.
Here we go.
Yep.
And I think that is the moment that I had been waiting for, where the series abandons reality a little bit.
They are super soldiers from now on.
Yeah.
Yes, this is like Bucky falling off the train in First Avenger.
Exactly.
They survive.
Yeah.
And so that happens, and then they're captured by the cartel people.
Yep.
They're cartel, right? Or that's the wrong term, I think, actually. I'm just using that as a catch-all.
Bad guys.
Bad guys. Gangsters.
Yeah. I mean, he's a drug lord that presents as a legit businessman.
Yes.
So
I mean, I suppose
he owns Brazil or Rio.
I guess I shouldn't be too concerned about offending people involved in cartel. I'm like trying to be sensitive. Am I using the right word? And then we get introduced to Dwayne. Let's talk about it.
yeah.
Okay.
How much
He's
baby
in.
oil?
Yeah, he is sopping wet this whole movie.
He is shiny.
He is.
I mean,
it's like every shoot, he comes right after whatever that WrestleMania that he did that same year.
Yeah.
He's just going from that to this.
well, and okay, so here's what I love about his performance. And I don't know how much of this is intentional, because this movie is sort of jokey, but it doesn't feel as jokey as I imagine the next movies are.
Yeah.
But he is saying the most ridiculous things, and he is not breaking at all. There's no smirk. There's no nothing. He's playing it so straight, and I think that's the magic of this character.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Where he's just...
letting him
Go ahead.
letting him drop the singular PG-13 fuck in his intro scene. It's like
No, wild.
he's trying to out Arnold the Schwarzenegger. Like, he's going for it.
He's going for it, and just the way there is like not in a bad acting way, but in a very specific way, he is showing no emotion this whole movie.
No. He's
And-
all intensity all the time.
Just saying the silliest things you've ever heard. Like that moment later where she's got the file and she says, it doesn't make any sense that these criminals killed these DEA agents, and he grabs the folder from her and he says, "You know what makes sense?" and throws it. And then he says, "Their names on a list and we need to get them." And it's played straight.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I would imagine, I mean, especially with Statham coming into the mix at some point, that stuff will be played a little more winky.
Oh, yeah.
Am I right in assuming that
Oh.
the series comes a bit more winky?
Yeah. I mean, so
I'm not using that in a bad way.
no,
either.
yeah. I get what you're going for there. It definitely, the movie. I think the language of the film is more winky in the future ones. His performance doesn't really change.
Okay, good. Good.
He's pretty on brand. I mean, say what you will about the guy. He's not the most ranged actor, but he knows how to lock
Yeah.
into the thing for the movie.
Yeah.
So that remains, but yeah, the movies get a little more winky about it. I think you guys are gonna love the last punchline of the next one. Vin Diesel delivers just the most chef's kiss of a terrible one-liner. It's excellent.
Nice.
And
great.
again, like that movie, the whole reason the movie exists is like, well, you almost made $1 billion off the last one. Are you guys sure you want this? And then it does it again, and you're like, yes, we want this.
Okay. Now, do any of you have any idea why he would be covered in sweat in every take? I know it's a
in
choice.
South America, it's hot.
Is that what we're supposed to glean from the character?
I don't know.
I mean, he's 80s stereotype character man. You know what I mean? Like the
80s stereotype character man. I love that.
he would fit in Predator. Like the handshake scene at the beginning of Predator. That's the movie that he's in his head. Like the character. Like the character thinks about the movie The Predator, and he's like, this is me.
That's great.
Okay, well, thank you for listening, everybody. That was it. No, that was, you're locked in there.
But in this intro scene, that's when he's saying all of his things that he needs.
Yeah.
And one of them being he needs a translator. It has to be this person. And I mean, character-wise,
I do love when the guy says, why her? And he goes, I like her eyes. And then
her smile.
Her smile. And later he explains the real reason.
Yeah.
But in this scene, you're like, okay, who is this guy?
Especially since she's not smiling in the photo either. That's just
no, I don't think she smiles at all.
No. Not till the end when they're in paradise with their coronas.
Yes.
Yeah. So then we cut to we find Vince is trying to grab the chip that our heroes have found.
Well, Dom and Brian get out of captivity.
Oh, what am I forgetting?
Because at that point in the movie, they fight and get out, and not a minute later, you said, "Wait, they got out."
Yeah.
And I said, "Did you actually just forget that happened?" And you're like, "I didn't even see it, but you were watching the screen the whole time."
I don't know what happened. Maybe I had an out of body experience or something for like 30 seconds.
They punched their way out of the of being hung up by the ceiling on the handcuffs.
Yes. Yep. And they reunite with Mia.
And because I hate to admit it because, we're sitting here. We got a lot of episodes in our belt. I like to think of myself as a smart film watcher. And yet I really did watch this movie and I saw them hung up. And then the next thing I saw was them arriving. And I was like, are we going to find out how they got out?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I feel like there were a couple times while watching this movie, you were like, huh? How did that happen?
And then you were like, yeah, that sentence they just said is how that happened, Micah. But, so then they catch Vince.
Yeah, Vince comes back and they're mad at him because the job went wrong. And they're like, oh, so it's like, why did it go wrong? What do you know? What are you trying to get us into? And then meanwhile, during all of that, Mia hears on the radio that it's the Americans who killed the DEA agents.
Yeah.
So that, like you said, that's why Hobbs is going after them. So they have to deal with that, but they also have to deal with Reyes about.
Yeah. Because Reyes let it slip that he wanted that car specifically. That's how they found the chip.
Yes, that's right.
Right. And then I do love it when it cuts back to Dwayne and we meet his detective friend.
Uh-huh.
And I looked up that actor because when he was speaking lines, I was convinced that he was trying to out-rock The Rock. Because he's, okay, I'll be looking into that right away.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
It was pretty nuts.
And I'm like, what? And then I looked up and I said, I found his name. It's Yorgos Constantine, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, killer name.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You're born with that name, you will be a famous actor.
But does he sound like that on a daily basis?
And I looked up interview. He's not famous enough. He doesn't have any interviews that I found.
Okay.
He just that whole team is mostly stunt people.
Oh, okay, that's cool. But I found what must be a fan on YouTube who has a video that has like 500 views. That's Yorgos Constantine demo reel, and it just has clips of his from like acting scenes.
That's weird.
And
but good
they're
for you.
all like this.
Oh, okay. So that's Yorgos.
That's his thing.
I mean, he's pretty bad, but in a way that it's like whatever.
He fits the movie.
This is fun.
He's great.
This is fun. But I had to point that out. And then is this when they jump on them in Brazil? Is this the big where they're running over the rooftops and all that stuff? Or am I
sounds
jumping
right.
ahead?
After they've discovered the chip, they escape with the chip from getting raided by Hobbs and his team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, simultaneously being chased by Reyes's dudes.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
It's a three-way clash.
Yes.
And this is where where I thought the fight with The Rock and Vin Diesel was in my memory. That's why I remember.
yeah.
But that's not where it happens. That happens much later.
Yep.
Right. And my joke for that scene that's not really that funny, but was it was hard for them to shoot that scene because they couldn't fit any cameras in the same room with the two guys. That's my dumb joke for that scene.
Laugh track.
Yes, I'll have to add that in editing. Let's hear it for me. And there we go. Thank you, everybody. So
yeah, chase scene.
Chase scene. One thing that I'm going to say that I like about this, because it's been so tough in the last 4 movies, is I am tracking with motivations and the 3 different parties and what everyone is doing.
Yeah.
And I just really feel like the last 3 movies, it's like you got to watch it a couple times, I think, to really get who's doing what and for what reason. And even then, it might not make any sense.
Yeah.
And it feels simpler in a way that's better storytelling, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we're not trying to make like The Godfather Part 2 or something where you're like, what? Okay, he's in Cuba and you're trying to figure it out and it's interesting. This is like, we need a little bit of simplicity in a movie like this.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun scene of running across all the roofs. I mean, that's always going to be kind of fun, I think, in a movie. And
you're always watching it and going, I wonder if I could do any of that.
Oh, totally.
This is
and
also where I think the cinematography really kicks in and kicks up. Like this is where they're kind of showing off, like, oh yeah, we can do like really cool looking stunts. The way they, because you could even compare this to like the chase in The Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton version, same location. And the way they shot that, it's so you don't get that verticality and all that like open space, and I think they shot the hell out of it in this one. Like you can tell, as things are descending, and you can keep track from underneath as they're looking up, and I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah, it's a long sequence too, and I think they really milked it for all it's worth.
Yeah,
and I love it.
This movie's milking everything, but it works.
Yeah,
it works.
Yeah.
That's not shade.
But
I'm not throwing shade.
They get away.
And then this is when Mia tells Vin and Paul
that she's pregnant.
Dom and Brian,
yeah.
and their
this
family.
Happens every episode. I switch all the.
And I think Dom says, our family just got a little bit bigger today.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, finally, we're getting that.
Yeah.
We're finally getting the family stuff. Let's go.
Yep. Since The Rock Hobbs has found where they've been holding up, the car's still there, although they've taken the chip. So they're kind of stationed here investigating, and they have to put back together the car that they took apart. And they spend a lot of time in this location for a while. They're using computers. That was something that you had mentioned, like based on the year this movie takes place in, it doesn't really make sense. The internet capability.
Well, because I was just thinking about the Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
Thing,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's just the funny part about it. And they're able to recognize later on in the movie, I think Dom and Brian, even though they can only see their eyes on like a security footage camera, they can zoom in and enhance, and like the computer knows that it's them. Yeah. But that's just fun movie stuff, not
fun
a real
movie
complaint.
Stuff. Fun movie stuff. We're not cinema sensing this movie, folks. We're pointing it out because it's fun.
Yeah.
So then they start talking about a barbecue. I wrote starts talking barbecue, and then I said this is when they're talking about their dads.
Okay. Yeah.
This is
I don't know if I'm conflating two scenes.
No. Yeah, you're dead on, because this has my favorite line reading in the movie from Vin Diesel, where he says the line, "I remember everything about my father," but the way that he says it, there are no consonants in it at all.
yeah.
And I watch everything with subtitles on. Like I have poor hearing already, so like I have to have subtitles. And I just every time that I watch this movie with the subtitles on, and he goes, "I remember everything about my father," and it's like, bro, is that the take you went with? Are you sure?
Oh, it's insane. I actually think in this scene I might have looked up where he was from just to know if he was from like New York.
Right.
Like just has a really heavy accent. I think he's just from California.
Yeah, but am I remembering wrong that he is Brazilian? Like I
don't know.
His dad or something like that?
I don't know what his heritage
I think it'd be a
is.
worthy venture. Because
Let's see.
I think that's part of why they always go to Brazil, because he's like, yeah, I love this place.
He did live in New York for a while.
He did, yeah. He never knew his biological father.
Whoa.
And his adoptive, oh yeah, so no, he doesn't know his biological father.
Well, what about it? His mother?
Oh, she is American.
Oh, wow.
He's with
What?
English, German, Scottish, and Irish ancestry. And then Diesel has said that he himself is definitely a person of color.
Oh, wait, but he made that declarative
Well,
statement?
like
or
he doesn't know,
researched that and found out?
referring to his biological father's background. He knows that he himself is
So
a
he probably
person
did like
of
a
color.
DNA test or something like that.
I'm assuming so. But
Okay.
yeah.
Because that's quite the thing to say if you don't have anything to back it up with.
I'm just on his IMDb bio, so I mean, don't take it as like truth.
Yeah.
You know, like the end all be all
Sure,
of something.
sure.
But yeah, he's got a crazy way of talking that it's just. I think I said this in the last while we were watching the last movie.
Yeah.
It was so hard to understand that I said he is so close to being that guy from Game of Thrones.
And the
That is-
witch.
and the witch that
The
is
dad and the witch.
impossible to understand because his voice is so low.
Yeah.
You actually can't hear what he's saying. But it's like the coolest voice ever.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why I think it works so well with Groot
Yeah.
in that first movie, because he's just saying I am Groot all the time. But since he has such a weird way of saying it and stuff, it always sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even if you didn't understand that Groot said I am Groot, you already know he said I am Groot.
But yeah, in that same scene, Brian says he doesn't know anything
liked
about
this
his
scene.
father.
I thought it was very
sweet. And
The line reading is very funny, though. I almost want to go back and watch it again with that in mind.
Oh, I have the clip on YouTube somewhere. Somebody clipped out just that minute and a half. And it's like 48 seconds in. I click on it and just to show people. I'm like, listen to this line reading. It's terrible. They didn't even ADR it. Like what? It's like that. That
No.
went past multiple people going like, whatever.
it's crazy. But a sweet scene.
Yes.
And then we get this moment, and this is the other thing we keep talking about this, where and this movie, it finally delivers, but it's felt like the previous four movies keep promising stuff. And we would get suckered into that moment where it's like, whoa, Vin Diesel's at the end of this, but then you actually don't have a legit payoff, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of, and that keeps happening. And this one, it pays off, and this is that moment
When they get the team together.
Han, Tyrese, and Ludacris come in, and I'm shocked how much I was like, woo, yeah!
The Avengers
Not just
moment.
them, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that they brought back the dudes from the last movie. Leo
yeah.
and Santos,
Yes.
who are played by Tego Calderon and Don Omar. I love them so much, and I could listen to them argue for hours.
They're doing the like Casey Affleck
Yep.
and I don't remember that other guy's name. Khan.
Yeah.
James Kahn's son.
in
in the Ocean's movies.
Yes,
movies.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name? Steve or something?
I don't know.
His last name's Khan.
He's a
Yeah.
con. I love it, and they're so much fun. And also, Gal comes back,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, we
It's
have
all
like
great.
everybody from the movies
Yeah.
up to this point.
Yeah.
And I know they're just going to start acquiring more. And I'm foaming at the mouth to see Kurt Russell in these movies. I just
Is he
can't
in
wait.
these?
to see
He's
him.
so much fun as Mr. Nobody. Yeah, he's
Wait, he's in this series?
Oh, yeah.
He's in the series.
Oh, that's good
I
news
think
for
he
me.
Yeah.
pops up in 7. I think is the first one he.
Wow.
But he gets he.
Wow.
But he's in more than one,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. He's been in all of
good.
them since the last 3. I think he gets seeded in 6 though. 6 has a bunch of 6 I don't like as much overall. But it has a bunch of like stuff in it that turns into stuff later in ways that I don't know if they planned it or just did really well retroactively writing.
Okay.
Whatever way it works out, it just works out in a way that every time I watch 6, I'm like, oh, that's where that thing comes from later.
I don't know if that's a good
This has
thing or
gotta
a bad thing.
I mean, watching this series and kind of hearing and remembering trailers, and stuff like that of them, it just has that. Like, oh man, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's just like I think of the Marvel universe as something that's, for the most part, pretty decently planned out, and it has a lot of those moments where you just go like, "Oh my gosh, they brought back Thor: The Dark World and made me think that I like that movie," or they brought back this thing. Holy cow, that's kind of cool. Or whatever, and then I think now they're even more intentional. Where they're even then they were planting stuff. They're like always putting these little seeds everywhere, and it always feels like they always had it planned, whether they did or not.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is this series. I'm like, I think this series might be crazier in that respect, where it is like you're saying. So far, it's pretty ironclad except for the technology displacement. Right. But it's like, yeah, I guess this works that this character's back or this character knows this. And then knowing what's coming and hearing you and Rachel and everyone saying like, it works. All these weird things they connect with work. I'm like, how?
I would love to be able to have the experience of like erasing these movies from my memory and then just jumping in on 7. You know what I mean? Just like would it feel like Buckaroo Banzai? Would you be just totally lost as to what they're, because they reference in-universe things most of the time, and things like there's something that gets mentioned in this movie. Hobbs says something about Vin Diesel beating somebody to death with almost to death with a wrench, right?
Oh, right.
That doesn't come back until the 9th fucking movie. Like, it's crazy.
But that was in the first
Correct.
one, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But it is great. Yeah. It's a weird franchise.
It's a living, breathing thing, and that's the weirdest part. Like, I think I find more life in this series than I even do in like the MCU, because every time I reapproach it, you're getting such a different flavor. You know.
This is the weirdest series ever.
It really is.
I mean,
it really is.
The day we started this podcast, we knew we would have to cover it.
Yeah.
And we dreaded it because we just thought that it would suck. And the verdict's still out on that for us. But at the very least, this is one of the most interesting. The worst thing you could say about it is that it's one of the most interesting franchises I've ever seen.
That's true.
And we haven't even got to the interesting stuff, apparently. It's just wild.
It's crazy that like none of this should work. Like, this feels like it would be a Redbox series, that they dump like $10 million
really does.
Death Race movies or whatever. It feels like it should be that. And so the fact that it is as big as it is and they get the names that they get to come to this series to give it that like level of sincerity and, AAA appeal, they get to play with all of these things that like even the MCU wouldn't think about playing about. Like, the MCU hasn't brought anybody back to life yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This series has brought. I don't want to ruin it for you, but like you're gonna see some ghosts in the future. Like,
well, we've already seen one at the end of these credits.
Exactly, and that's just the first one. It like it's such a crazy experiment. It's such a crazy experiment.
And I mean, from what you're describing, it's like maybe they could even make a next movie that that cancels everything out, and everyone would be like, "Wow, that was really cool how they did that."
I feel like they're just like daring the audience to never ask for another movie or something.
Well, no. Justin Lin is determined to make you know that Tokyo Drift is a masterpiece. That's why the series exists.
Yeah.
That's the platform I'm running on. Yeah. 2024.
If 10 Part 1 and Part 2 aren't just like love letters to Tokyo Drift, like what if they solve the finale of the series is solved through like him teaching drifting to the rest of the team?
I would love it. That would be great.
Just a meta break at the end. Justin Lin comes out, middle fingers to the audience, just like, Tokyo Drift was always awesome, motherfuckers. That'd be funny.
No, it would be. So we're talking about Fast Five.
Yes,
though.
yes. Sorry.
No apologies. I think I started us there anyway, and that's why we're here. They get the crew together, and I wrote this note after the crew was together. I said they finally figured it out. I'm in.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see this heist.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what everyone gets to do.
Yeah. And this is great. Tyrese, I'm loving Tyrese.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an energy that I love. He's very funny. And he's just a goofball.
Yeah, I think him and Han are my favorite.
Yeah.
Characters.
Yeah. And they're talking about how they're gonna steal about $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, Dom, you said that this wasn't, or no, he said this seems personal, not just business, and this needs to be business. So for that reason, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Shark Tank, he says, I'm out, dog.
And for that reason, I'm out.
Yeah, and I said I'm out, dog, and I went to American Idol when I was trying to reference Shark Tank. Oh, well. They should get Randy on Shark Tank.
Does he still have money? That's the question.
That's a good question.
Those residuals have got to still be pretty
Maybe we
lucrative.
could take Randy onto Shark Tank and get them to invest.
So, he's hearing about the heist. He hasn't heard the dollar amount, and he just walks away, and he's like, I'm out. And he did his little speech, and I was like, that was good. I mean, I know he's coming back, but I like what he said. And then he goes, it's going to be $100 million. And then he just turns around, and he's like, okay, how do we get this thing going?
Right.
Always a sucker for that kind of a joke.
Yeah.
I love that. And then they rob the first place.
Well,
but they don't actually rob it.
They set it on fire to send a message, and they're trying to scare Reyes into getting all of his money and putting it in one place so they can steal it all at one time, not 10 different times.
Smart.
I am so here for it. And so now that it's all in one place, everyone gets to do their jobs.
And this is where this is the note where you asked if the writer took a class because the movie's so much better.
It was so good. So Leo and Santos get to do a poop attack in the bathroom, which was so fun.
Right.
And they're fighting the whole time, and they infiltrate it to get some security footage that they're gonna need for their whole heist thing.
Tyrese says this went from Mission Impossible
Roman.
to
Roman.
Oh, Roman, yeah. I'll never remember that. But
that's okay.
Roman says it went from Mission Impossible to Mission and Freaking Sane. And I was like, oh, I remember hearing that 1,000 times during the times I went to the theaters in 2011. Right. Go ahead though. You were.
So Roman is the smooth talker, so he's supposed to he's trying to get something into the evidence room.
Yeah.
And through all of it, funny scene. He does get the guy to bring in like a remote control car with a camera on it into the control room so that Ludacris can see the vault and what kind of vault it is. And he knows everything about it. And they're so confused. And he says, I had a life before this one.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
I'm so excited for you guys to see the running trope that is, what is it exactly does Roman do for the team and why does he keep making money? Because he has no tangible skills.
Okay.
You're right.
He drives a bunch. That's what he ends up doing for all of the movies.
Now, Ludacris, I am like having a blank right now. Is he in the Fast and Furious or is he in Too Fast?
He's in
Yeah,
two.
he run.
Too Fast, and he's the promoter guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
But he had a life before that stuff, Micah.
no, I know. It's just I'm just thinking about it. I'm not. The movie explains it. It's like you said. It's ironclad. It's just so funny to think of that character and compare it to this character because they are not the same character.
think
and I kind of love that.
Considering this series and what we have just learned today about it, and for a character to say, "I lived a life before this one," that can give us 5 more movies.
Yeah.
Just to explain all the other lives one character.
Oh man,
has.
you guys don't even know half of Dom's backstory yet.
No, we know nothing. He's
Oh,
a
no.
mystery.
Oh no.
And then Han is the chameleon, so he's supposed to get the Reyes' handprint, but why do a job? Why have a man do a woman's job? I think is
Right.
what Gal says. And disrobes and goes to Reyes to where he immediately touches her butt.
Yep.
And just like that, they have his handprint.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, not a great move on his part, you know.
But
Yeah.
But I gotta say, of the butt grabs we've seen in the series, his was the gentlest.
and he's a bad guy, so it's okay.
We're all expecting it.
No, I am not condoning this, guys. Please don't take this out. And you know, I don't know. Who cares? Cut that. I wrote street race with a fun guy. Now, what does that
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Can anyone
the
translate that?
non-character that they go to see to challenge him for his GT,
Uh-huh.
and they skip
Uh-huh.
the whole
Oh, yeah.
race.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
I know. That was so funny. We get to that scene and I'm like, cool, we're just going to get a fun race in the middle of this movie.
Nope.
Yeah.
A movie that's all about cars and racing.
So oddly enough, the 2 things I'll say about that. First one is I thought the guy who they were talking to was excellent. He was
Yes.
so
Yeah.
keyed
He
in.
was so
He
great.
was so good. I hope he returns and he's one of the crew in one of
Well,
these.
he's had a life before this one.
And then also, oddly enough, I did feel that thing where I'm like, okay, let's go a race. And then when it cut, I thought, yeah, okay, good idea. It worked. It worked. It was like it subverted
Well,
my
and
expectations.
we get the $1 million quarter mile later. So it's not that
Right,
we
right,
don't
right.
get any drag racing in the movie.
Yeah,
The ways
right.
that they have to invent drag racing for future movies, you're gonna love it. It's just Iggy Azalea pops up at one point. It's awesome.
Okay. All right. Then there's a montage of them trying to make this 10-second corner that they need to make.
Yeah, to like avoid the camera.
Yeah. And I wrote fun.
Good note.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
my
Good
big
note.
note
was
on
fun.
that. Good, solid note. No, it was just a nice sequence. I liked how it was edited. And I was like, I'm feeling the family vibe. I'm feeling the FF vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm starting to feel like a fan. Uh-oh. And then Gal drops the towel. And then they get Hobbs' attention. Dwayne is soaking wet in every take. We all know that. And then we get the $1 million quarter mile race.
They are all, it's Han, Roman, Dom, and Brian, and they're racing for $1 million. And Brian wins, and everyone says that Dom let him win because he's going to be, it's like a gift for being a father.
Yeah,
And Brian's really mad.
he is pretty mad. But he's fun mad.
I will say, the character of Brian, still not very memorable for me.
Yeah, I still can't imagine a world in which I cry at the end of Furious 7. I just can't
Wow.
imagine it. Although a tragedy nonetheless in real life.
It also
course.
might be like the distance from the actual death may impact the amount at which you feel it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, because that was like the same. Was it the same year that it came out? And so
Yeah. Oh,
everyone's
yeah.
like,
Yeah. Everyone was just
oh,
like
man.
working out their actor death trauma in the theater.
yeah.
Wow.
But he is better in this movie,
Oh,
and
he's
like
gotten
his
better every
character's
movie.
better.
Yeah.
And I, referencing earlier, I do in that dad scene when he says he never knew he doesn't remember anything about his dad, and then Vin Diesel's like, "You're not gonna be like that."
Yeah.
And I was like, simple, to the point, and kind of beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we have a barbecue. We have a legit
Okay.
barbecue, and they say grace because that's the other thing we've been promised is there's always barbecues. And up to this point, there's only been one barbecue.
2. Well, one barbecue, but they said grace in the last movie.
They did say grace in the last movie, but now we're back at the barbecue.
Yep.
The guys you were mentioning, the Ocean's 11 guys, are burning the meat. Funny stuff.
And they're Roman and Ludacris are talking about what they'll do with their money. And Ludacris wants to open a shop, but like an honest to good shop where you don't screw someone over for fixing their car.
Yeah.
And Roman's like, you want to spend your money to have a normal life?
Yeah.
And Roman says something like, I'm just going to get all the girls, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, he says something a little bit more intense than that, Jordan.
I can't remember.
He says $10 million can get you a lot of vaginal activity, is what he said.
That is how he puts it.
And that's one of the wildest phrases I've ever heard in a movie. I think that's up there.
Yeah.
It's an odd one.
And so Vince comes back too. And he's like, come on, Dom, I'm a good guy. I didn't mean it. It was a mess up, I didn't know those guys were going to do that. And Vin's like, you back? You hungry? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, good, because you're saying grace. He's back in the crew. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Non-toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson shows up, busts through.
And is this like right as they're about to do their heist?
Yeah.
I think so.
Like
yeah.
people are starting to leave and go. Oh yeah, because they're like, and now we're all gonna be millionaires, and so everyone's leaving except Dom, Brian, Mia, maybe Vince are still there, and they get. The Rock shows up. They get arrested.
Yeah, well, I mean, then this is the Vin
giant fight.
and
The giant fight. Yeah.
And Dwayne fight. And those guys are so big. And the punches hurt so much.
So much meat being thrown around in those scenes.
Yes. Thrown around, thrown through walls, into walls.
If you watch the extended version, through a floor at one point.
Whoa.
A la Green Goblin with Spider-Man.
A lot of the action scenes in this are very similar to that action style in No Way Home. I was making that same observation.
And I think, just to plant a little bug in the listener's ear that we're going to pay off later, I think at this point, Vin Diesel might start thinking, I should start having someone on set counting how many times I get punched. And that's where I'm going to leave it. That's a little seed planted. If you don't know the stories behind that, folks, we will get into that in the coming weeks. So they fight, and they smash some cars. And then, during that, isn't that when like the Reyes guys break in too, and then it's like everybody ambush.
No,
they
later,
arrest them and they're driving down.
And they're driving. I think they're going to the airport to ship him off.
Yeah,
and they get ambushed.
By the way, I mean, I'm not a car guy, but those like tank trucks that they drive are cool. I liked it all the time that they were on.
His whole team, Hobbs' whole team, looks like they should be hunting like Tyrannosauruses or something.
Seriously.
Like their job is not people; they are dinosaur hunters in that machine.
I mean, that would maybe save the Jurassic World franchise.
I'd watch
if you
the
brought him
hell
in.
out of that crossover. Yeah, fuck time travel. They don't need to go to space. Just give me dinosaurs versus Vin Diesel.
like in the new Jurassic World, they're just, going along. We see the old characters have come back and stuff, and then just we see Hobbs's car like fly through, and he like shoots a Tyrannosaurus Rex in the head.
Yes.
And then he's like, I gotta kill some dinosaurs.
Yes.
Yeah, I would watch that. Yeah.
And then the whole crew comes out and they start flying around, tranquilizing, of course, actually, because I think these are probably some environmentally friendly drivers.
I think I have the one-liner for Hobbs in this scene. It's time to take your Flintstone vitamins. Right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Just silly enough that it almost works.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh man. And so then they are ambushed.
So like all of Hobbs' team gets cut down, besides Elena.
It's shot
intense.
well, and it's pretty intense. Vince gets
It feels
killed.
like a war scene, like for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they barely get out of. Elena uncuffs the crew, and they come out and they start helping Hobbs.
Yeah.
Which it's like family. So they save him. They go back to the
Which I think
warehouse.
before we watched this movie, you were like, so how? When I said, oh yeah, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's a cop, you were like, oh, so he joins the crew at some point, kind of snarkily. And then in this scene, I think we were both like, oh, that's cool that he joins the crew. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you know what's funny? I said this in the last episode for the last movie. One of my biggest issues with most of these movies so far have been the police stuff. Just get rid of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's all of this whole undercover crap. And
Well, it's trying to Point Break, but it's not Point Break.
And but in this movie, obviously you still have some kind of law enforcement involved. But it's like not the same way. It's just I'm the law and I'm taking care of business.
Yeah.
So it's just it's different. It feels fresh. The character is so different too. And then they all get back to the warehouse, and when Hobbs is like, "I'll help, let's do it,"
Yeah.
so I can kill that guy. It's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm in for that.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'll ride with you.
Yeah.
Very, very
And then
erotically charged. It was, ooh. He's like laying out on that table after his leg injury. All Jeff Goldblum style. They're Jurassic Park coming right back in. Come on. It's right there.
Wow.
It's inevitable at this point.
Yeah.
That needs to happen. So now it's the heist.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of talked about the technical aspects about it. Let's talk about the character and the story of it, I suppose.
I mean, it's a big action scene, though.
I know, and that's always tough to explain on a podcast.
I mean, they drive a freaking bank vault through a bank.
Through a bank. And on a side note, they did that.
That's wild.
I think
They just
I think
did
the
that.
big takeaway from this final action scene is that the heist that they end up pulling off is not the heist they were planning this whole time, because they just go,
Yeah.
oh, well, let's just blow a hole into the side of the police station, yank the safe, and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll totally get away.
And then they're using it like it's a slingshot in certain moments, like pulling the brakes and making it fly
love it.
That
forward.
whole thing would
yeah.
have made an excellent video game like mechanic. Like, can you
Yeah.
imagine like a
Yeah.
Mario Kart like versus battle where you're both tied to some object? You know what I mean? You have to work
yeah.
as a
That'd be
team.
so cool.
That'd be so cool.
That sounds like a great Mario Party game.
Yeah. Oh man. It is a pretty breathtaking scene. If you are listening to this podcast and you are like, I've been tracking with you on the last 4 movies, and now you're saying you like this? I liked how you didn't like these movies. At least go online and do yourself a favor of watching this sequence, because it's undeniable. It's a great action sequence. I mean, it's one of the great sequences, I would say. I mean, is it not? It's been solidified in time as one of the greats.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the one that I point to when I'm like, really, like, what is the Fast and Furious series capable of, and the way that they employ physics and the way that it's shot, that you can keep track of every single move, and the way that it applies. You see the cascade effect of if Vin goes this way and he goes this way, he's gonna yank the safe. You know, like it all functions in a way that you can keep track of it in your head, and that's the most amazing part.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not what you get all the time. You know, this is not shaky cam hoping that you maybe see the car here and there. I mean, this is clear action that you could pause it and explain what happened to the person next to you.
Yep.
It's great. It's a great. I mean, they're aiming at telephone poles so that they can fall and hit cars. So they have like precognitive abilities that we're tapping into. But I mean, we saw him solve a crime with his brain before, so that's not too far out of the league for this. And then they get on the big overpass. And I can't believe I fell for this, because this is what you do in any heist movie ever.
The swap out.
Is the swap out. And when they got there, I was like, oh man, they're gonna, it's like, I think Dwayne The Rock is there. They've killed, no, wait, okay, I'm jumping ahead.
Well,
the
Dom,
two
Dom
of them
lets,
are driving.
Dom lets Brian go because it's like, you're going to be a dad. You need to survive. You need to get out of here. So he
and now he's
unhooks
doing like the
Brian.
last showdown.
He's doing the last showdown. He's using Nos finally to kill a couple other baddies. And he smashes the car into Reyes's car.
And the safe like knocks over some people, and it's kind of hanging close to the edge of the bridge. And then at this point, Dwayne pulls up, and I also was like, this is great. That was a great thing to do. Where Reyes looks up at him and he goes, "Help, help," and he shoots him. He just immediately kills him.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And he says a line, I forgot what it was, but it's a good line. He kills him. And then, Paul Walker also comes back and he's helping him. And then they're like, Dwayne says, "You know what? You helped me out, but I can't let this go. This is my job. I got to get you guys. You're the name on my list, but I'll give you 24 hours and then I'm going to get you."
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, "Oh, that's fun. I like that."
And that's why I think the next movie's going to start off.
That's what I think too. Looking, nope, your face did not tell.
Poker face over here, baby.
So then they take off. Our two boys, they take off. And then I was like, oh man, what are they gonna do? Because no one got paid from this crazy job. I can't believe I fell for it.
Me too. Because I'm just like, well, at least they got away with their lives.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
all right, clean slate,
like,
everybody's happy.
yeah. I'm like, I guess, yeah, they can make a lot more movies here, because they owe their crew a lot of money, I think. And then Dwayne opens the safe and it's empty. Yeah. And then it shows that earlier they made a switch.
When Mia's like,
Classic.
"You guys gave yourselves a 10-second window." Well, that's what it was for. And I too felt like
I remember the first time because I saw this in theaters, and I remember sitting in the theater going, "There's no way they got out unhooked and hooked up to a new one in 10 seconds. That's impossible." So when they showed that slick garbage truck switch out, I was like, "Oh shit, that's smooth." Just this whole heist is so like new and unique.
Yeah. So believable.
And you were I was thinking in my mind that when they were practicing the 10-second switch, that it was to do something in the police station.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that.
But now, I thought you just said it. No. So you made me think that the movie's making you think that, but the whole time this was their plan.
Yeah, I didn't think about that part, how it fit in with this the whole time. Wow.
That's very cool. That was the 10-second switch that they needed to do.
Yeah.
Got to get that 10-second car. Yep. You always do.
Yeah.
And so they escape. Is there anything that happens after that?
I think it's, only like 3 minutes more. But they get away, we find out they get the money, and I'm like, this movie keeps going. Like,
well, you have to have the glamour shot scene of everybody spending the money.
Yes. Yes, no, you're right. And as it's going to, it's like, oh, so that's what they did with their money, and that's what they did with their money.
And actually, I do want to reverse, because we talked so much about Dwayne's performance, the 80s action star, the playing it straight the whole time. I do love that when he opens the safe, he laughs and he smirks. Yeah. And it's like, that's the one time he shows emotion, and it's like he respects what just happened.
Yeah.
That's great.
He loves the game.
Have you all ever seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with Michael Caine and Steve Martin? It's a movie about con men. And long story short, the finale, Michael Caine's like the main big con man. And somebody pulls one over on him. And he's stone-faced reaction at first until it breaks into this big smile. And he starts applauding and just having a great time to have the wool pulled over his eyes.
Nice.
Oh, that's great.
Is that one where they're trying to steal from this really rich lady?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I have seen some of that movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
sounds like something we need to watch.
Yeah.
And then Roman shows up to Ludacris's shop, and he talks about how he has this car. There's only one
in the Western Hemisphere.
And there's only 4 that have ever been made. And then Ludacris's car pulls up, and he's like, I guess there's 2 in the Western Hemisphere. And I really enjoyed that scene so much.
It was very nice.
They are shipped for the rest of the series too. Like that, they knew after this one the magic was there, and Roman and Tej are paired for the rest of the series.
I love it. They have great chemistry.
They really
Yeah.
do.
They do.
Han and Gal Gadot are making out in their car as he's driving, 100 miles down the freeway with her in his lap. And he says, we'll get to Tokyo eventually. To which I was
Love
like,
that.
I'm like,
what?
what's eventually 8 other movies?
Love that.
And then,
I love Han though. I will be happy to see him in however many movies he's in more.
yeah,
He's fun.
I don't know why, but he didn't quite capture me this movie as much as the last movie.
Oh really?
And Tokyo
The last
Drift.
movie that he was in for 2 minutes?
Yeah, I misspoke.
Oh,
in
okay.
Tokyo Drift.
Okay.
I don't know what it was. It
Oh.
just didn't quite
He's
click
so
as much.
cool.
But he's still good. I am in no way saying his performance is bad or anything like that. But it just didn't hit me as much as I thought it was going to. But maybe I was just enjoying Ludacris and Tyrese too much.
Yeah.
So and then the credits roll, and in the credits,
No.
What?
We get to Dom, Brian, and Mia on a beach with Alana, and Mia is very pregnant now, and they're
Oh, yeah.
so happy with their coronas on the beach.
you're right. I apologize.
I bet it's about time to have dinner, a barbecue.
But then what was funny was in the credits, it's showing footage of the actors with their names, and it's showing their footage from every movie that they've been in. And I was just like, that's just, it felt like this was the end of the series, was like how it was framed.
I think they really thought that like if they were going to finish it out, they were going to finish it out here. And if not, they knew that they had the next story, because this one, 5, 6, and 7 are like the unofficial, like, good trilogy.
Okay.
Stuff that started in this one, and I guess technically Fast and Furious as well. We'll call that an unfortunate prequel. Stuff for the next 3, they kind of restart each movie. It's like, okay, and then this thing is the new thing to set off the plot. And it all resolves, and they end up either at a barbecue or back at the beach. And that's just the trope that will continue for the next few for you.
Great. And you know what? The next movie can't start right after that 24 hours because we've seen what happens days or weeks later, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, because Eva Mendes visits Dwayne, and she's like, you got to look at this. And he's like, is it the 2 men on the list that I have? And she goes, no. And he goes, I don't care then. And she goes, no, you're really going to want to see this. And we see that Michelle Rodriguez
Okay.
Rodriguez is alive.
Yep.
He's alive.
Which, I mean, I knew she was because I had seen footage of her in other movies. But I was like, thank goodness that this is happening soon, because
I know. I was afraid it was going to be like
when
3
she died in the
movies.
4th one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was just, like you had said at the beginning of our episode, just so sorely missed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yet,
Yeah.
up to that point, she had only been in one other of the movies. But I was like, no, you have to have her in this. What are you doing? Why was your decision to kill her?
Mm-hmm.
So,
You know, and
thankful.
Initially that decision does feel a little bit like fridging for Vin Diesel. Like, initially I wasn't a fan of that decision. The way that they pay it off later, and I don't know if it was like background stuff, like she couldn't come back for 5, and so they decided to work that into the plot, or who the fuck knows. But the way that they turn it into like a multi-movie arc for her, and she ends up getting oddly more character development than a lot of other characters in the series.
Interesting.
Oh, good.
I'm here for it. I love that character.
Yeah. She's excellent.
Great.
Go ahead.
Have either of you played any of the Batman Arkham games, Arkham Asylum, Night City?
Yes, I've played them all.
There's an element of those games when you watch the next movie, it's going to remind you. And I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you what it is, because I really want one of you guys to let me know when you get there and say, "Was it this? Was it this thing?"
Yeah, I will let you know.
You have already actually referenced those video games.
Yeah, well,
talking
in our
about
last
these movies.
episode, I said that Dom does Arkham Knight, and he stands in the road, and he recreates
that's
the
right.
crime
That
scene.
was for. Why was I thinking? Maybe it's because of Letty. That wasn't for. Okay, so yeah. You guys have already. You know exactly what I'm referencing.
That's the
there.
Arkham
Yes,
thing.
That's the Arkham thing.
I was like, I mean, and when the scene was happening, that was all I could think about.
All
I could think about.
The first time I saw the movie, I was like, he turned on detective mode.
yeah. That's what it's. Yeah, I forgot that it's called detective mode.
Great.
Oh my gosh. Or the other reference was like he's doing the, he's like Sherlock Holmesing in the street right
His
there.
mind palace.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. But yeah, that's Fast 5.
Yeah, fun ride.
The first one I liked.
And there are so many more to go.
I know, and I hope I like them. I'm still a little bit scared, but you made me feel a little bit better about it.
I just hope from what this movie has given me is gift and hopefully a little bit of a promise that the ones going forth are at least not as bad as where we've been.
Yes. That's what I
can
hope too.
definitively say that Fast and Furious is the worst of them.
You're talking 4?
Yeah, 4.
Okay.
4.
Okay.
To me, 4 is its only real crime is being boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It is.
that's a crime in a series called Fast and Furious. So yeah, that one ends up kind of being the most boring. I can understand people not liking the first two and kind of falling off on those. Those are definitely products of the early 2000s.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I'm just kind of charmed by that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
And
but
yeah.
Yeah,
The more we've gotten into the series, the more I've liked the first one.
yeah,
that's true.
For the charm.
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
in our last episode, I think I said that I liked 4 the most. But in thinking about it more, I definitely like the first movie the most before this one we just covered.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I would put 4 lower now.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It's the more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, I really didn't like that movie.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't know. It's kind of listless. It doesn't know where it's going. All of the racing scenes are shot like they're shot for TV. It's kind of weird. It doesn't have that oomph that you need in something like that. It oddly felt a little political as well, which was like not a good look for the series. Like, I really love that these movies, especially from this one on, they remain very apolitical, and they also become more and more inclusive to the degree that by the time I got to 7. And I realized in the theater, I was watching a scene with Tej Roman, Michelle Rodriguez, and a new character who sticks around later on, one of the new family. And it's a scene about them trying to figure out what to do for the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Brian's not there. Dom's not there. It's just the 4 of them. And I was like, this movie's made $1 billion. and the linchpin is on all minorities, and half of them are female.
yeah,
And they don't tout that in this series at all. Like, nobody's talking about this being like this super inclusive, like, broad-ranged series. And it's like, they could totally make this part of the marketing. And the fact that they don't makes it even cooler to me. It's like, no, it's just like, obviously, you need a lot of different kinds of people for a team like this.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's been something that has been fun, where it's like, there's people that look different in this series. I like that. It's like, and it's crazy because, I mean, if you compare this to another franchise, like pretty much any other franchise, I think like percentage wise, it's probably not even close. At least American franchises, as far as diversity. That's the word I'm
I mean,
looking for.
look at the year after this, you get the first Avengers. And it's like all white guys and one woman, and they're having their Avengers scene before the Avengers scene happens in this movie, where they go around the whole warehouse and show you everybody rolling up, and I genuinely I applaud the series from the get-go. I mean, all of these movies have been very diverse overall, because like the first movie has a whole team of Yakuza in it, and just. It becomes such a global. This one does really well of only being in Rio. All the rest of them are globetrotters from here on out. So like, get used to that.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it benefits from that, because they go all over the world, and you can see the way that different strengths of the people that have lived in these parts of the world play out.
Cool.
It's just I think this series doesn't get applauded enough, and I guarantee that's why it's so successful, because like anybody can go to the movies and say, I want to see a great big fun action movie that's not going to offend me, and I will feel represented in.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's great.
Well, I've said my piece on Fast Five.
Same.
What about you, Seth? Do you have any conclusive things that you need to say?
Yeah, I mean, let me, I guess, cement my case of why I think this is the best one. Like I said earlier, that this does really sit at that axis between the realism and the surrealism of the future movies, and I love that this feels accessible. Like, I feel like I could run into this team somewhere in the world, and to varying degrees, I think all the previous movies feel like that. From here on out, it doesn't feel that way, and I don't think I'm just chasing a smaller movie, because I know they have to keep getting bigger. That's the promise of the next Fast movie, is they will always be bigger. So I think this this is about the extent of my personal attention span for this kind of stuff. Like, if I want a heist movie, I want Oceans, I want Fast Five, I want, that kind of stuff. If I want a superhero movie, I'm going to watch Winter Soldier or, fucking whatever. But I'm on board because they've stayed true to the core of all of it. And so even though they get bigger and sillier, and I have a harder and harder time defending them, they still give you little gifts like, there's this scene in 8 with Jason Statham and a baby that just like, it could be a whole movie. That's how good these guys are. So good at turning sequences into these like self-contained pills of awesome.
Yeah.
And I think this movie was the first one to figure that that's what people wanted out of this. They don't care about the cops. They don't care about the street racing, really, at the end of the day. They care about cool cars and people dropping cool one-liners and cool shit happening with that, like what you want to see with it. And when they finally just said, we're not ashamed of that anymore in this movie, it led to this, I think, this lightning in a bottle of just like, this is the perfect distillation of everything that they've done to this point and then do after here.
I have nothing else to say about that. That sounds great. That makes me excited for what's to come. It gives me confidence, to which, before we watched this movie yesterday, I was like, all hope might be lost.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that way anymore. Yeah.
Well, Seth, plug away.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I had a podcast before this, to quote the movie. So I'm the host of the Film Rescue Show for one more episode. You can check out, I think I tallied it up to about 360 hours of me talking about movies over there. If you want to check out the Film Rescue Show, I'm sadly, by the time this episode comes out, it'll already be announced. But sadly, I'm exiting as the host of that show so that I can go make movies for real. So that's really cool.
Hey, that's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that, and the journey's been awesome, and it's led me to meet amazing people like you. We've had y'all on the show. Jordan, we have to have you on at some point.
Yeah.
The show's going to continue without me, so like the hope is still there.
I got to think of a movie to rescue.
Exactly.
I know that, that's the thing. I've wanted to come on before, but usually I either don't have a fix for a movie, and that's like what I want to bring, obviously that's the thing. Or it's a movie we're covering, and I'm like, ooh, I have this fix on why this movie we're already covering. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that.
Right.
So, but it's there. It's always at the front of my mind.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can check me out online at Seth Decker on all social media. If you disagree with my Fast and Furious takes, we can take it to the streets there. The tweet streets.
The tweet streets. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me back. I love being here. I can't wait for whatever the next one is that we do.
Yeah, we will definitely have you return again at some point. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I've been getting through this episode and that just wasn't enough plugs for me, I want a little bit more, I would encourage you to go to patreon.com/MicahMcCaw. And since it's the month of March, we will have an episode about 2022's The Batman out. on Patreon and only on Patreon.
Oh.
So head over there to listen to that, and we have a special guest for that episode as well, a returning favorite. And I gotta say it again. I hope it's good. Good movie.
You say that like every episode now.
I know.
You
I'm just
don't
scared.
have faith. You're not strong.
I don't have faith. I don't. I want a Schumacher Batman again.
Yeah,
honestly,
dude.
that's what I want.
I'm 100% in the boat of we could have 5 Batman movies a year, all unconnected from each other, and I wouldn't complain as long as they were different takes. Because
Yeah, heck yeah.
I love Lego Batman. Like I want.
Oh yeah.
Batman is like made for comedy. There's Bat Cow. Like, for Christ's sakes, like there's a lot you could do with this guy, guys. We could do more than one a year, but that's just me. I agree. I would prefer a comedy take on Batman soon.
Yeah, I think it's needed. But you'll have heard all of that because I bet you went, oh man, and you already signed up.
Yeah.
So anyway, but more importantly, go follow Seth.
Yes.
Always a funny Twitter follow. Always some hot takes. And if you're listening to this podcast, I think you like hot takes. So head over there, and we'll be following this budding career, and that'll be exciting. So of you.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I was like, yeah, you guys are doing great. I'm so glad. Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm excited for it. It's my first feature. I've done a bunch of short films and music videos already, so this is my first time to show like, hey, can I do 90 minutes of this? It's exciting.
Well, we will be excited to watch it when it comes out for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll have to have you come on so you can promote it while talking about another movie.
Absolutely, I'd love that.
Cool. Well, thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
Next week it's Fast and Furious 6.
Bye.
Bye.
It's like the only thing they talk about in these movies.